Here's the thing with Lamar. A year like this, I think, would be the perfect season for Lamar or Josh Allen to capitalize and win their bowl. Because the Chiefs started out a little slower. Now they're wrapping things up. But you could have capitalized early, locked up a first round bye, locked up home field advantage, and moved forward from there. But now the Ravens starting 1-5, MJ, I'm getting a little worried because you got a guy like King Henry's getting older, right? Like Derrick Henry, his best years are probably behind him. He still looks really good, but I don't know how long he can keep that going. And Lamar Jackson, Lamar's turning 29 in January. He's still got some elite prime years left, but as a uber talented, very mobile quarterback, considered a dual threat quarterback, you got to think to yourself, the prime is a little shorter than a pocket gunslinger like we've seen previously with Brady, who was balling with the Bucs at like 45 years old. So at this point, you have to be wondering, is Lamar going to get his Super Bowl? And I think eventually he'll get a shot. I think he'll have his shot over the next 4 or 5 years. But it's getting really concerning to me because you have years where you're supposed to be capitalizing like this season and you're not. I have questions about John Harbaugh. I have questions about his weapons. And it seems like everything's falling apart. Like it's going to be tough for them to climb their way back into the AFC playoff picture.
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of if Lamar Jackson is going to win his first championship, the first person that comes to mind is Patrick Mahomes. It's the Kansas City Chiefs because they own Lamar Jackson. They own the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, whenever he plays them, it's always a battle, and he doesn't play up to his MVP standards. Against Josh Allen, head-to-head last season, didn't get it done. There were years in the past where Lamar had home field advantage and didn't get it done. Like you said, Lamar Jackson's 29 years old. I believe that he is so great. There's going to be at least one season he at least gets to a Super Bowl. But seasons like this, where your defense on paper is amazing, they turn out to be one of the worst defenses in the league. You get injured. Now you're looking at 1-5 out the playoff picture. Like, if they lose to the Bears, it's over. It is over. It's over. So Lamar is going to have to carry. This season, I think they're out of it because now you have to go to Buffalo, which you haven't had success there. Now you have to go to the Chiefs, to Arrowhead. So it's only going to get worse. The number one seed, like you said earlier, like, oh, that's out the window. Oh, that's out the window. I think eventually he'll at least get to a bowl. But it is on the table that Lamar Jackson in his career doesn't win one. That's a fact. On the same side, I will say this. If Lamar Jackson wins a championship, you can put him in top 5, top 6 best quarterbacks of all time. Those type of discussions. So he has a lot to gain if he gets the job done. But ultimately, it definitely is on the table that when Lamar Jackson, his career is over, that he doesn't win a championship. John Harbaugh, I'm not a fan. Derrick Henry, like you said, he is getting older. All right, yeah, they can get some other guys. They haven't been too great with getting wide receivers. They got Zay Flowers. I mean, we got to see what the Ravens do to pivot because they got to get rid of Harbaugh. I'm just sorry. They're not winning no championship with John Harbaugh as their head coach. So that's what it is there. And then I go back to the Chiefs. Right now, they're the odds-on favorite to win the AFC. They are. And they should. And I'm not betting against them. I was a fan of Buffalo, but Buffalo ain't beating the Chiefs. They're not beating the Chiefs. And I know, like, you're a Bills fan and all that. Like, I'm sorry to break it to you. Y'all not being the Chiefs. Y'all not being the Chiefs. So I went a little everywhere there, but it definitely is on the table that Lamar Jackson doesn't win a championship in his career. Would I bet on it? I'll see how this year goes, and then I'll really bet on it. You can go back to it.
Well, you look at the landscape of the AFC, and for the past 5 to 10 years, the past decade, let's say, there's been a new wave of quote unquote elite quarterbacks or elite quarterbacks, however you want to describe them as, with Lamar, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Herbert. One or two of those guys, and Burrow, one or two of those guys at least will not win Super Bowls. It's the same thing as when Rivers and Matt Ryan and they were around, that generation of quarterbacks dominated by Brady and Rodgers and Manning. There will be some elite quarterbacks that simply just don't get to the bowl. Now, Burrow already had his shot. And after that Super Bowl, I remember I was concerned about his future in winning a championship, because when you get a shot like that in a tough conference with a guy like Mahomes and Reed, nothing is guaranteed. Absolutely is nothing. And that's not to discredit the NFC, but when you have a powerhouse team like the Chiefs who have been to, 8 straight conference championships, you get concerned. And a year like this, when they start out slow, that's the opportunity. And I get it. You can't avoid injuries. Obviously, they happen. It's a part of the game. But to start 1-5 and to start seeing the weaknesses on this roster crumble down, it's really concerning for a 2-time MVP who probably should already have a Super Bowl, who hasn't played his best. You're right, against teams like the Steelers and the Chiefs who have figured him out and who hasn't been great in the playoffs. I get concerned. So I have faith Lamar will at least get a shot. But this Ravens team really concerns me. I don't think they've given him enough, and I don't think he's been good enough in the playoffs to get it done. And in my opinion, you look at a guy like Russell Wilson, who's now 36, and his mobility is shot. And he used to be the prime of a dual threat quarterback back in the day. At what age do you think Lamar tapers off? I'm thinking maybe 33, 34. It's probably done as far as his elite mobility goes. So you have a 5-year span now, but you're going to battle with some really good teams. And you got some climbing right now with the way teams like the Colts look, if they can develop that, if the Patriots can continue to get better. There are a lot of good teams rising up. So if they're going to capitalize, I think it has to be right now, MJ.